if you know the kinds of things you want to have in the stipend, then go ahead and fill that out, email it to me. And if you're even if you send it as a draft form, we can go back and forth on the specifics. If you don't know yet, it's totally fine to wait until you're having that conversation with your coach to figure out what it is that you would like and the best use for spending those funds. But I'm here. Eventually you'll be emailing it to me. So know that it's not like some kind of official heavy duty, high stakes kind of thing. You could send it to me in draft form when you think you might know, and we can go back and forth on it if necessary. That's all.
All right, everybody. So thank you, Jillian. And now if you want to squish up your gallery so you can see the slides, we shall get rolling. So why are we here? We're here because from kindergarten to third grade, people learn to read. And from third grade to adulthood, people read to learn. So we're here to prevent the summer slide, or maybe now the COVID slide. It might be slidier, it might be slipperier than it was last year. And so our first objective for this evening, Jillian, is that you will get some strategies to ensure that your campers are having a positive, motivating, and level appropriate relationship with literature over the summer. And then a more distilled objective would be, next slide, to understand how physically involving students in the text promotes joyful engagement and retention of content. So we're going to remember that it's summer. So we want reading and writing for your campers to be fun. We don't want it to feel like school. We want it to feel like summer. They get exposure to so many dry, dense texts during the year. And this can be an opportunity for them to fall in love with story. If they love the story and the relationship to the story, then they'll be more likely to pick up a book on their own that interests them and give it a try. And also, I want us to keep in mind that literacy is really, at the heart of literacy is communication. So are your campers receiving ideas and reacting to them, either through conversation or writing? And are they forming ideas and sharing them, either through conversation or writing? And if that's happening, that's a baseline of literacy. That hits a lot of the detailed progressions that we were talking about before. So I got this idea for interactive read alouds. I didn't invent it. I have to give credit where credit is due. From a partnership that KidSmart has with the Arts Literacy Project. We are going into our third year in residency at 2 New Orleans charter schools. And we integrate the arts, and in our case, theater and visual art, into their English language arts curriculum. And the framework we use is called the performance cycle. The performance cycle can be used with any academic subject. It takes the students through a cycle of innovative ways to explore text, connect the text with their own experience, and create new things based on the text that they have been exploring. And that way they can express their understanding of the text. We're not going to unpack the whole performance cycle tonight. Just know that we'll be using some of the components, and if you want to know more about it, you can actually go to artslit.org. It's a great resource for activities that are fun and engaging and focused on literacy. And we'll be sending everybody a packet with the exercises that we'll be doing tonight. And they'll have in-person explanations and online internet explanations so that you can, when you get back to your kids in real time, face-to-face, you can also use these exercises.
I'm sorry, are you emailing are you gonna email it to us?
Yes.
Can I leave my email address in the chat box?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
So the first thing we always do in a class is a warm-up. And we call it, in arts literacy, we call it a community builder. It's a good place to address social emotional learning, but we also do it just to set the tone. They may be transitioning from one place to another or one activity to another. So we're setting the tone for that, for what we're going to do next. And also it's about finding common ground and to build community. If you take the time to build, I'm sure you know, to build relationships and trust, it ensures that kids will take risks and feel supported when they explore something. So our first community builder will be one to find things we have in common. And this is why we need your first name. If you would rename if you just got here, if you would rename your thumbnail with your first name, and why we'll need you in gallery view. We're going to be doing this using the thumbs up button, and it is called The Truth About Me. So the next slide, it's a good one to do at the beginning of camp when you're just learning to get to know, just learning about each other. So if I were doing this in person, I'd have chairs in a circle. And there'd be enough chairs for everybody except one person. And that one person gets in the middle of the circle. And they say, the truth about me is, and then they tell the truth about themselves. Everyone who agrees with that truth, if it resonates for them as well, they get up out of their chair and they go to find another chair across the way from them. Can't have chairs on either side. You have to get across the circle. Well, inevitably that leaves another person in the middle of the circle who then shares another truth about themselves. And the point of this is to find commonalities between each other. So, there may be, so you don't want to say something like, I have a blue shirt. It's not, really a way to break the ice. You want to tell something about yourself that somebody really may not know, that may be interesting, and that can get conversations going, between your campers at lunch then, when they come over and say, you went to Mexico, I went to Mexico, and it builds community. So the way we're going to do it here is, I have a particular gallery view. I'm going to call on people. Please think of some interesting fact about yourself, an interesting thing about yourself. And I'll call on you, say the truth about me is, and if it's true for you, when you hear it, please go to your reactions and give us a thumbs up. Okay. And then we can just have a view of how many people have things in common. All right. So Angela, you are right to my left. I'm going to start with you. The truth about me is?
The truth about me is, I was still thinking, Sam. I love to go camping.
Me too. Okay, Hannah, and I love it. We'll be there with you, making s'mores. Oh, and Zed, excellent. Okay, Francesca, you're next.
The truth about me is I am originally from Florida.
Aha! In a case like this, you would give us another truth, but we will move on because no one will have gotten up out of their chairs and crossed. Wonderful. Now we know this about you. Myhan?
A truth about me is I like animals.
I think you'll have many truths there. Jamil?
The truth about me is my left leg is shorter than my right leg.
Oh. Not significantly, but yes. Shanita?
Okay, the truth about me is I love teaching kindergarten.
They are great. Ms. Perry?
Okay, the truth about me is I love ice cream.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Jillian?
The truth about me is that I love dogs.
Mm-hmm. Lang?
All right. right. The truth about me is 2 summers ago, I went to Jordan and was able to swim in the Dead Sea.
Wow. I would definitely pull you over at
And I
lunch
still have
to talk more about that.
the sand that I took from there.
Wow. Wonderful. I don't know if anyone else has done that though. Wow. Oh, I'm sorry, Amanisha. She would have gone too. Hannah, what's the truth about you?
The truth about me is I have the same birthday as someone close to me in my family.
Ooh. You stand alone. Oh wait, Elise does too. Miss Perry does too. Zeb.
The truth about me is that I did not have a childhood pet.
Oh. Tranisha.
Truth about me is I love pasta.
Unfortunately. Manisha.
The truth about me is that gardening calms me.
Ramisha.
The truth about me is I love to read.
Angela, thank you.
Yes.
Angela, what's the truth?
I love kids.
Oh, yeah. Elise, you're next.
The truth about me is I would prefer to be outside.
Okay, well, the truth about me is I play the trumpet. Darn. I was about to ask you to all get out your instruments so we could jam, but okay. So that is a community builder that you can use with your students, campers, and around maybe when you first get together for camp, be it in person or in this odd way. Our next activity is about little victories. When kids are learning to read, they, there's a learning curve. And so you want them to have little victories so that they'll feel confident enough to keep going. So 45 is something that I do, and you will need for this just a piece of paper and a pencil. Or a Sharpie or a pen. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. You could even use the notes on your phone. Once you've got that, we'll go to the next slide. So go ahead and thumbs up me if you got it. Writing utensil, piece of paper, or even notes on your phone. Anything you can hold up to the camera so we can take a screenshot. Wonderful. So next slide. And within that slide, the answer is 45. Go ahead. What is the question? The answer is 45. What is the question? What is your question to this answer? When you've got it, write it down. And then hold your answer up to the screen for everybody to see. Amanisha says, what is 42 plus 3? Elise says, how old am I? Angela's answer, 9 times 5. Oh, same one, 9 times 5. Excellent, thank you. Shanita, you got one?
What is how much my 3-year-old at the time loves me? I asked him how much he loved me, and he was frantic, and he was thinking, and he said 45. So we always, since that day, we always say, how much do you love me? 45.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Anybody else have an answer? Ramisha, do you have an answer?
What is another name for the president?
Oh, yes. Zeb, do you have an answer that you can read to us?
Mine was similar. I said, what number president are we over?
So the beautiful thing about 45 is, and if anyone else has answers, please, we'd love to see them. The beautiful thing about 45 is all the answers are right. Every one of your answers is right to this question. Do you have any wows or wonders about 45? Anything that resonated with you? Okay, well, what I notice about 45 when I do it with my kids is that they feel right, because kids hate to be wrong. They hate to be wrong. It shuts them down. But also in this way, where everyone right in front of them or in a Zoom meeting is right, then they have a chance to sort of enjoy the creative ways that people answer that question or question that answer. And it fosters an appreciation for the way other people's minds work and problem solve. And that, believe it or not, brings me to the heart of reading aloud. Reading aloud, why is it important? Well, for obvious reasons, early readers connect sounds and words and meanings, and then it advances their literacy. Some kids have reading challenges, but they still deserve a story. So reading to them is a nice thing to do. But it also works imagination muscles at all ages. So in the next slide, something that I realized was when people read to us, it gives us that silent, quiet, reflective time to imagine and construct worlds and worlds. And that, I found, Jillian, is actually developmentally essential for problem solving and preference definition. So without time to process what you are receiving, it doesn't really stick. Comprehension is minimal. So that quiet time where people are reading to you and you get to imagine the characters, imagine the settings, imagine the voices, imagine what colors things are, what things taste like, that's actually working what I call the imagination muscle. And people need that muscle, especially for, you know, the jobs of the future. if we want to talk about whether or not testing is important, it's not as important as giving kids the chance to problem solve and figure things out for themselves. I don't know if you remember, but I remember when someone read me a bedtime story and I was laying back and relaxing and filling all of the details for myself. That was problem solving. And then when I was later able to pick that book up and read it on my own, I went right back to the world that I had created and invented when I heard it from somebody else. Even if there were no pictures in it, especially if there were no pictures in it, you have that chance to fill in all those details for yourself. And then I want to ask you, do you remember when you saw that book made into a movie? And if you've ever gone to a movie after you've read the book, it's off. Maybe the people don't look right, maybe the settings are different, because somebody else's ideas and imagined worlds ended up on the screen, but you'd already worked them out for yourself and made them real for yourself. Imagining something and making it real, reading in general exercises this muscle. So we definitely want as much as we can. I read to my mom just passed 2 years ago, and I read to her in her last days, and it was absolutely wonderful. And I read her the books that she used to read to me. It's just a wonderful thing to have that time, if you can take that time with your family or your campers or anybody and read aloud to them or be read to, it's something that is really wonderful for the rest of your life. But while kids are developing their literacy skills, there are some things that we have to keep in mind that might be some challenges that people encounter on their literacy journey. So I would like a volunteer to read us the first 4 sentences on the next slide. And I'm gonna, if somebody's willing to read aloud, can you thumb up? Anybody? Thank you, Ramisha. Thank you. On this next slide, just the first 4 lines of this next slide.
Thou mayest believe me, gentle reader, without swearing, that I could willingly desire this book, as a child of my understanding, to be the most beautiful, gallant, and discreet that might possibly be imagined, but I could not transgress the order of nature, wherein everything begets his like, which being so, what could my sterile and ill-tilled wit engender but the history of a dry, toasted, and humorous son? I think I've read more than 4 lines.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ramisha. Snaps for Ramisha. I just want to get your reactions to this piece of writing. Anyone want to unmute and tell me what you feel about this piece of writing? Or show me on your face. Yeah.
On the grade,
it sounded like it was meant to be read aloud, unless by a dramatic actor.
I see. Yes. Well, we're going to get to that, Zeb. I'm glad you mentioned it. I'm going to keep you on top of that. This was a bestseller. In fact, they're still redoing and telling this story now, and it was a bestseller in 1605. It's Don Quixote. The story, the basic storyline resonates with people today. I'm an avid reader and I've been dying to read this story. I can't get past the first page. It's a hot, horrible nightmare. The language is impossible. And sometimes when I come across, even being a very fluid, very advanced reader, when I come across something like this, I think to myself, I wonder if my kids are feeling this way, feeling the way I'm feeling right now about work that we would find very simple and very easy to read, right? And when I hate a book, it gets closed. So that's what they're doing. When it is not working for you, you will just go away. So next slide, let's face it. If you don't know what's going on, you'll check out, right? And I see it happen in my kids a lot. And there are some remedies to that, but if they are feeling that way, making sure that a kid's got a book that is on level or just a little bit above level so that they can have a little bit of a challenge, but they don't feel defeated is super important. And that's what I'm talking about these little victories. You want to just make sure that reading is not a horrible experience for them. Because if somebody asked me to read that over the summer, I don't know that I'd ever come to camp again. You know, just so. But one of these days I will read Don Quixote. So what I'd like to do is talk to you right now about picking the right book. Super quick. If you're in person or not with your kids, I know some of you were thinking about maybe working with literacy centers. And we're also working with you on making sure that you get access to a variety of texts, whether that be actual texts or online texts. How do I pick the right book? To be honest, your kids can pick the right books for themselves. Next slide. And this is called Just Right Books. And there's a rule of thumb, a 5-finger rule, where you would show your kids, you know, sometimes on the very first day, there's a pile of books. You give them 15 minutes to go pick 2 books that they'd be interested in reading. And what they do is choose a book and open it to any page. And on that, they read it. And on that page, each time they come to a word they don't know, they put a finger up. So it's a self-evaluation, so they can keep their level private. They don't need to, read out loud to everybody and be embarrassed if they can't read that. So 0 to 2 fingers, it's too easy. You've probably read it a million times. 2 to 3 fingers, it's just right for you. And you probably enjoy that book. 4 fingers, go ahead, give it a try. There may be some challenges, but you can overcome them. And 5 fingers, the book might be too hard for you. But the beautiful thing about 2 hard books is the kid has an interest in the book. So that kid can bring that book to you and say, this is a 5, but I really want to know what's in there. And then you can create a collection of read aloud books. So the kids themselves are choosing the books that you would read aloud to them. They're just a little bit advanced, and they can hand them over to you, and then you can do a read aloud with that book, knowing that a kid has an interest in it. Because honestly, if they're not interested in it, they won't do it. They'll just shut down. The goal of interactive reading is that both the reader and the listener are actively involved. And the first thing about that would be that whenever you read aloud, you want it to be dynamic. So I'm hoping next slide is correct. We hope, yes. So reading aloud involves theater, everybody, and it involves modeling for them the excitement of reading. So I always read the book ahead of time to model the fluency, so I'm not stumbling over words while I'm reading it to them. And I always change my voice to differentiate characters. My voice is generally the narrator character, and then each character has their own voice. It keeps your listeners surprised and engaged when they have to be passively listening. So this next slide, and you may need to, yes, this is an example of a dynamic reading. This is from one of our art apart videos, and these will be made available to you. So what I want you to look for is just the difference in character voices. And it is a video, so we do hope that it goes smoothly.
Your pal Mo Willems presents Leonardo the Terrible Monster. Leonardo was a terrible monster. He couldn't scare anyone. He didn't have 1,642 teeth like Tony. Hollow teeth shone. He wasn't big like Eleanor. And he wasn't just plain weird like Hector. Leonardo tried very hard to be scary, but he just wasn't. One day, Leonardo had an idea. He would find the most scaredy cat kid in the whole world and scare the tuna salad out of him. Leonardo researched until he found the perfect candidate, Sam. Leonardo snuck up on the poor unsuspecting boy, and the monster gave it all he had. Until the little boy cried. Yes, cheered Leonardo. I did it! I finally scared the tuna salad out of someone! No, you didn't, snapped Sam. Oh, yeah? Replied Leonardo. And why are you crying? My mean big brother stole my action figure right out of my hands while I was still playing with it. And then he broke it on purpose. And it was my favorite toy, and I tried to fix it, but I couldn't, and I got so mad I kicked the table, and I stubbed my toe on the same foot that I hurt last month, and I accidentally slipped in the bathtub after I got soap in my eyes, trying to wash out the bird boom that my brother's cockatoo pooped on my and I don't have any friends, and my tummy hurts. That's why. Then Leonardo made a very big decision. Instead of being a terrible monster, he would become a wonderful friend. It's okay. But that didn't mean that he couldn't try to scare his friend every now and then. The end.
So I'm a theater artist, so voices are something that I have fun with. And actually finding the voice from a character can just start with looking at a picture. So when I looked at Leonardo, I was like, this must be his voice because he's a monster, but also he's a young monster, you know, he's not really developed monster, and maybe has some impulse problems or something like that. And I just got that really from looking at the picture. So what I'd like to do now is practice some character voices. May I have 4 people to volunteer? I know, I told you it was going to be interactive. I wanted, like, when you ask your kids to volunteer, they may feel the same way. But yes, I'm going to be asking you to change your voice a little bit based on some characters you see. Trinisha's going to help us out. Thank you. Zeb's going to help us out. Thank you. Shanita's going to help us out. Is Ami going to help us out? Okay, so Trinisha, you will have the first character. Zeb, you will have the second character. Hang on 1 second, Jillian. Shanita, you'll have the third character, and Amanisha, you'll have the fourth character. When you see them, get an idea of what their voice might be like based on what you're looking at, and then a dialogue bubble will pop up. Please unmute yourself and say what this character's saying in that character voice. So first, Trinisha. Okay, thank you, Jillian, sorry. You have a mouse, and the mouse is saying,
I'm looking for some cheese.
Okay, I love that. Can you tell me why you chose that particular voice?
I feel like mice have squeaky voices,
Okay, they squeak, right? Their voice, they're
so I wanted to do a high-pitched squeaky voice.
Excellent, thank you. Zeb, you have the second character. And this character is saying,
hello, I'm looking for my grandson.
Thank you. What made you say it this way with this character?
The character appears to be mature, female, a bit fragile.
Nice, thank you.
Hello. Hello, I'm looking for my castle.
Thank you. What made you pick that voice?
I'm thinking of a dainty princess and how she would talk.
Okay, thank you. And can you do me a favor? What if I told you, before we get to Amanisha's character, what if I told you that this was a really mean girl? How would you say this same thing?
Hello, I'm looking for my castle.
Nice, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, Ami, your character, and he is saying,
hello, I'm looking for some rock.
Tell me why you picked that quality of voice.
I think because his 2 teeth are sticking up, it made me think that he's kind of a slow lumbering person.
Right, and who knows why he wants rocks, right? He may want them for lunch, we just don't know. So thank you, everybody. Please snap it out for our actors. We are going to, if we can, This is the apex of interactive read alouds, which is an actual interactive read aloud. What we're going to do is called an alive reading. And this has been, since I've discovered it, has been the most wondrous thing for my kids. And in fact, the big kids last summer at a camp learned how to do these, and they did them for the little kids. And it was very heartwarming. If you have older kids and younger kids and you can get them together, it's your best resource actually in a summer camp or in a school. So in an alive reading, here's what you do. You pick a book. And in that book, you may have repeated words. In that book, you might have a place where people could make sound effects. You could have a place where everyone's speaking at the same time. You might have a place where you give out parts to people where they're doing the narration. And then you may give parts to people where they're doing the dialogue, where they're talking to each other. For the read aloud we're going to do, there are repeated words. And every time you hear me say, aye, I want you to wave your hands in the air. So aye will be a cue for you to wave your hands in the air. Let's try it. Aye! Come on, everybody, get them up. The second thing I'm going to ask you to do is when I say they ran and they ran, you will run and run right where you're sitting. So that involves running with your feet. So yeah, and running with your arms maybe. So that you are going to be making noise if you live in a top apartment or somebody's wondering if you're in trouble, just let them know you're doing an alive reading. And then when I say that can't happen, you will all say, oh yes, it can. So let's try that. That can't happen.
Oh, yes, it can.
Thank you. If you have a kid just hanging around the house right now, you might want to bring that kid in. Because I'm just saying, it's fun. The narration and the dialogue will happen later. Those are the only three things you need to remember. Aye, they ran and they ran. Oh, yes, it can. This is Too Much Talk by Angela Shelf Medeiros. One day, a farmer in West Africa went out to gather some yams. While he was digging, a yam said to him, "You did not water me, you did not weed me, and here you come to dig me up." "Whoa," said the farmer. First, he looked around. Then he looked at his dog and said, "Were you talking to me?" "No," barked the dog. "It was the yam." "Aye!" screamed the farmer. He ran and he ran, uphill and downhill. And he ran, downhill and uphill. He ran until he met a man who was carrying some fish. "Why are you running in the heat of the day?" said the fisherman. "Well," said the farmer, "first my yam talked, and then my dog talked." "Oh," said the fisherman, "that can't happen."
Oh, yes.
"Oh, yes, it can," the fish said to them. "Aye!" screamed the farmer and the fisherman. They ran and they ran, uphill and downhill. They ran and they ran, downhill and uphill. They ran until they met a man who was weaving some cloth. "Why are you running in the heat of the day?" the weaver said. "Well," said the farmer, "first my yam talked, and then my dog talked, and then the fish talked." "Ow," said the weaver, "that can't happen."
Oh,
yes, it can, the cloth said to them. "Aye!" screamed the farmer and the fisherman and the weaver. They ran and they ran, uphill and downhill. They ran and they ran, downhill and uphill. They ran until they came to a woman who was swimming. "Ah," said the swimmer as she glided through the water. "Why are you running in the heat of the day?" "Well," said the farmer, "first my yam talked, and then my dog talked, and then the fish talked, and then the cloth talked." "Oh," said the swimmer as she did the backstroke. That can't happen.
Oh, yes, it can.
The water said to her. Aye, yay! Screamed the farmer and the fisherman and the weaver and the swimmer. They ran and they ran, uphill and downhill. And they ran and they ran downhill and uphill. They ran till they came to the house of the chief. The chief came out and sat on his royal chair. He said to them, "Why are you running in the heat of the day?" "Well," said the farmer, "first my yam talked, and then my dog talked, and then the fish talked, and then the cloth talked, and then the water talked." "Talk, talk, talk," said the chief. "Too much talk. Yams don't talk, fish don't talk, cloth doesn't talk, and water doesn't talk. All this foolish talk will disturb the village. Go away before I throw you in jail." So they all ran away. "Imagine," said the chief, "a talking yam. How could that be?" "So true," said the chair. "Who ever heard of a talking yam?" "Aye!" screamed the chief, and he ran uphill and downhill and was never seen again. So that is an alive reading. And usually I do that for the little ones. And then we also do the next part of it, which is acting it out. So after you've done these things and read it to them once, you'd be really surprised actually with the movement and the voices, how much they retain in terms of the story. And so then you ask them to come up and take part in acting out parts of the story with characters. So I am going to ask 6 people, if you please. If you would give me a thumbs up if I've got 6 volunteers. The really fun thing is also when you're in person again, the kids come up and actually act it out. They get to run. The king sits on the chair, which is a kid. It's quite fun. Okay. We're going to start with running and running uphill and downhill. Are you ready? They ran and they ran, uphill and downhill. They ran and they ran, downhill and uphill. They ran till they came to the house of the chief. Now the chief came out and sat in his royal chair, and he said, I will say it, then you repeat it. Chief, why are you running in the heat of the day?
Why are you running in the heat of the day?
Farmer, why are you running in the heat of the day? Well, first my yam talked, and then my dog talked.
Well, first my yam talked, and then my dog talked.
Fisherman?
Fish talk.
Then weaver? Angela, the cloth?
Then the cloth talked.
And then swimmer? My Han?
About what it was. And then the
water
talk.
Mm-hmm. Chief, talk, talk, talk. That's you, Chief.
Oh, talk, talk, talk.
Too much talk.
Too much talk.
Now tell us what doesn't talk.
Tell us what doesn't talk.
Oh, you, Chief.
Oh. What did I say? Oh, yeah.
Yams don't talk.
Yams don't talk.
Dogs don't talk.
Dogs don't talk.
Fish
don't talk.
Cloth?
What's the last one?
Cloth.
Cloths don't talk.
Water.
Water doesn't talk.
All this talk will disturb the village.
All this talk will disturb the village.
Go away.
Go away.
Before I throw you in jail.
Before I throw you in jail.
So they all ran away. Imagine, said the chief.
Imagine
a talking yam.
A talking yam?
How could that be?
How could that be?
So true.
So true.
Who ever heard of a talking yam?
Who ever heard of a talking yam?
Chief. And he ran uphill and downhill and was never seen again. Thank you, everybody. That was beautifully done via Zoom. I can't tell you how wonderful. That just was wonderful. Thank you so much. So we're going to do a thinking routine called Connect, Extend Challenge, which you may have done many times. In the chat, if you would just let us know, does something that we did today connect to what you already knew? Especially a live reading. I'm just wondering how that feels for you in this new format. What new ideas did you get that extended or pushed your thinking? And then what might still be challenging or hard to get your mind around, and we may need to answer some questions or brainstorm about some solutions. I was excited to be a part of it, happy to be silly and attentive because I was waiting for my turn. That does indeed happen. Felt fun, I'm so glad. Like a performance, yes. Now that could be a good thing or not a good thing. Some people do not like to perform. It is true. You do want to keep them engaged, but I wouldn't necessarily, I would definitely allow them a few times to maybe just watch the other people who like to shine and then get their courage up. So sometimes we love for it to feel like a performance, and sometimes we have to be aware that some kids really don't like to be on the spot. So maybe give them something like a sound effect, or they're the leader of the running, or they're the leader of the IE, but something so that they can feel part of it, but not necessarily be put on the spot. And I want to thank everybody for letting me put you on the spot today. I know that that's not always fun, but thank you so much. It was wonderful. I like that the next speaker took cues from the previous reader on how to act out their line. It was fun and silly, gives the student a chance to shine. Motivating some campers might be a challenge, absolutely true. And that's basically about the, to help with that is the community building piece. If they feel safe with each other and safe with you, I would really spend a big chunk of your time on just becoming a community, because then all kinds of fun things can happen in a sort of environment of safety. So that's a good point. Zeb challenge, I have my ideas, but what do you suggest to encourage students from mimicking what was modeled? Yes. Do you know what? Sometimes I will say, you can't do what I did, has to be from your own voice. But if they're trying on, but if I have modeled something, I always feel like if I've modeled something, it's perfectly okay for people to try it on because they know that it's the thing I did, so I must like it. It might work. They might have a way better idea, but I don't think that mimicking for students, at least in the beginning, is a terrible thing. It's at least a trying on of a new sound in their mouth or a new character. And from that confidence, maybe they can then get deeper into character. Ms. Perry, very exciting, I'm so glad. Well, thank you everyone, that was absolutely wonderful. If there are any other comments, questions, things that you'd like to unpack, I am really sorry about having not optimal technological things on my end, and I really want to thank Jillian for jumping in and saving the day. Oh, a new idea for me is when they come up with a character voice, you saying, what if I told you she was an angry princess? You can try those different things out too, because I very rarely meet princesses who are nice people. So I really want to know what their true voice is. You can have multiple students try out character voices, absolutely. Exactly. You can actually put adjectives to what if he's a sad ogre? What if he's a confident ogre? Right, what if he is an ogre in love? And it might change the way his voice is, an angry ogre. Wondering if Angela has anything that she may want to say.
I was just excited because I remember I was in your workshop last year, and so I got to see it live and get to see us, acting out live. But this time it reminded me when I was a little kid, I had Colleen Sally came to my school. Yes, and I didn't remember that. I mean, I remembered it before, but this time reading it through, and I remember all of this just being so, I wasn't called on to do a part with her, but she did this. And we all got to, you know, call out, Epim, Anandis, Epim. It was so wonderful. And so I was just so excited to see that just now too, that's what we just did, was the thing that I was so enchanted by when I was a child. And I remember it. So I'm excited that now we have these camps who have this opportunity too, and this resource and idea to use that this summer.
Jillian, is there anything else that you would like people to know before we?
No, I just wanted to say thank you, Sam. A note on your facilitation, like it's most likely that folks are going to have some tech issues when they're trying to do this activity with their students or campers at home. And Sam modeled some really excellent facilitation. Like, don't let that get you down. Just be silly about it, have some fun, and just remind folks that we're doing something together. And that if someone's having an issue, we're all having an issue and we're all in the same boat, and that it's okay, and that don't let it make you shy, and that it's all fun. So,
and hopefully it is fun, and I hope everybody had fun. At the end of a day, fun is important. At the beginning of a day, fun is important. So
thank you.
So thank you everybody for being so engaged and flexible. I was going to say bendy, but that is not the right term. And we will be reaching out to you this week, Amanisha and Zev and I, to have our first conversations. And I hope that you had a good time tonight. And we will be seeing you at least by Zoom or phone soon.
So folks, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Our team's gonna debrief internally, so feel free to go back to enjoying the rest of your evening. Thank you so much.